Hey, it's Rabbi Shmuel Pollan. I want to thank you all for joining me for another edition of the Light Unto the Nations show. We're going to do a second part to the show that I did previously, which is about whether the Bible condones slavery, and there's a lot of confusion on this topic, and I hope I cleared a lot of it up. But someone in the comments pointed out that I was only talking about Jewish slaves, and the rules might be different in the Bible for non-Jewish slaves. And let's talk about the verses that he quoted. It is chapter 21, verse 20. It says that if a man strikes his male or female non-Jewish slave with a rod that is capable of inflicting a wound, and the slave dies under his hand for within 24 hours of the slave's death, must be avenged. The killer is executed by the sword. So this is, in a way, a really good thing. We are giving rights to the person's life. We're saying he's not just property. He is a human being, and that's not something that in many generations going back we had settled. It was not at all agreed that the slave would have any rights at all, but in this case they have so much rights that if you kill them, you actually get killed yourself. And then finally it says, however, if the master's slave survives for a day or two, i.e., 24 hours, he shall not be avenged because he is his master's property. And we're going to talk about what that means, that he is his master's property. But we also need to point out the word that is used, eved. The word eved comes from the word avoda. Avoda means work. So eved means worker. So we shouldn't really call it slaves. We should really call it workers. And the first worker that we see in the Bible is Eliezer. And he speaks in chapter 24, verse 34. But Yomar, and he said, Eved Avraham Alechi, I am Abraham's worker. And we see that the worker can be on a very high level in the status in the home. Eliezer was Abraham's right-hand man. He trusted him with going to find a wife for his son and many other things he entrusted him with. Eliezer was definitely high up there. He was like an equal to Abraham. So we could see, and Eliezer, by the way, was not Jewish. He was a Canaanite, what you would call a slave, what I'm calling a worker. This was simply an arrangement that they had, whereas instead of Abraham paying his worker with money, he pays him with food and with having a home and with having clothes. He took care of all that for him. And we have today, probably, like in Buckingham Palace, there are probably butlers and other people, maids and other people working in the home that live in the home and get paid by eating from the home, get paid by getting clothes from the home. It's just a certain kind of arrangement which works for both parties. And according to the oral tradition, which is very important to know about because we can't understand anything about how to apply the Bible. Just impossible to apply the Bible the way it's written. We have from Moses, from God, an oral tradition which tells exactly how to apply each law. And according to Rambam, who codifies the oral tradition, also known as Maimonides, he says that you must listen to the needs of the Canaanite servant. You must feed him first. And he gives a few more instructions on how to treat a Canaanite servant. And he also says that if you do what it says in this verse, and you treat him like property, and you whip him, you are absolutely not doing the right thing. In fact, if a Jew actually does this, actually does hit his slave, he's considered an achzari, a cruel person, and we question his Judaism because Jews are known to be kind and compassionate. So this person is whipping his worker and turning him into what we would call a slave. Then his Judaism is questioned. He is doing something very, very terrible. And the fact that it says that if he hits him with an object and he dies or he doesn't die, That's not saying that this is we're condoning this. This is not at all saying that we're condoning this. We're saying that he should be treated like property, that he should be treated like a slave. Absolutely not. This comes right around the territory in the Bible about poking somebody's eye out and having to compensate him monetarily, according to the oral tradition. And nobody is saying we should go around poking people's eyes out. We're just saying that if somebody does, this is the way he should be compensated. So if somebody does hit and turn his worker into a slave, this is how he should be compensated. And you may get the death penalty for hitting him. Where does the whole idea of the Canaanite slave come from? It actually goes back to the portion of Noah. In the portion of Noah, they come out of the flood, they come out of the ark, and there are now 4 people, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, who are going to inherit the world. And Ham was an evil person, and didn't want his father to inherit most of the earth, and therefore he castrated him so there would be no more children coming out of Noah. He did an evil thing, and therefore he and his descendants were cursed to be slaves to Japheth and Shem. And Japheth made Persia, and Shem made the Jewish people. So he is being punished, and anyone who is from Ham, who is descendant of Ham, can actually get out of this punishment by observing the 7 Noahide laws. Search Google for the 7 Noahide laws and go to asknoah.org. If you follow the 7 Noahide laws, you become pious among the nations. The pious among the nations, Chasidei Umeis HaOlam. And you at that point, according to the oral tradition, can reach any spiritual heights and gain any spiritual gifts from above, from the afterlife, as a Jew, even a Levite Jew, which is a higher level of Jew. So you are totally not bound by this punishment. Your way out is the 7 Noahide laws, which are very basic moral laws. And let's just, now that we mentioned the Levite, there are 3 groups among the Jewish people. There are the Israelites, which is what I am, nothing special. Then there's the Levites, who did the singing in the Holy Temple. And then there's the priests, who did the actual service of the Holy Temple. So the priests are the highest level. The Levites are the second level. And the Israelites, like me, are the third level down. But does anybody look at anybody else as if they're less than in the case of priests and Levites and Israelites? Absolutely not. We're all one Jewish people, and we look at it as we're each fulfilling our own particular role that God gave us, because we wouldn't know without God what our role is in this life. But God makes it clear to us who is a Levite and who is a Jew and who is a non-Jew. Imagine like a football game. You have a quarterback and you have a wide receiver. Who's more important? You need them both to score a touchdown, and you need the linebackers too, and the offensive linemen too. You need all of them. They all work together to make a touchdown happen. And what's happening right now is we are fighting with each other. Jews are fighting with non-Jews, and Muslims are fighting with Jews, and blacks are fighting with whites, and we're all fighting with each other. And who's laughing at us? The one who's laughing at us is Satan on the other team. The other team is all completely satanic. And we think that our enemy is each other. But our enemy is actually Satan, and Satan is the one that wants us and convinces us that we want to fight with each other. And in this way, we're losing the game, and Satan is winning the game over and over and over again. Satan is beating us, and that's why the world is in the state that it's in, because Satan is in control. We need to pull together and realize it doesn't matter if you're a Jew, a non-Jew, a convert, a Levite, a Kohen, a priest. It doesn't matter. It matters how well you play your role. It's like your role in a movie. It doesn't matter which part you were given. It matters how well you play that part. And that makes everybody better. It makes the entire team win. It makes the movie great. And it makes us win the game. So may we all pull together and embrace the role we were given by God, whether that's There's always going to be somebody above you and someone behind you. So don't worry about what your status is. Worry about doing your role as good as you possibly can. And together, we'll win the game against Satan and bring the messianic redemption today. God willing. God bless.